money. And I kind of want to echo what Lewis says, and that is, if you want to do something, you'll find a way. One of my colleagues sold her car to go to Germany the first time, and you know, that's how you get things together. Anyways, what I would like to talk about is just how travel has affected my work individually. And so, you know, you go to places like France and you see churches and modern technology kind of overlapping. You think about France and the new descending staircase, and living in South Texas where the whole economy is through pipes, I went ahead and created my new descending staircase. And so that's kind of what happens when you travel. You see something, you respond to it. That work actually developed into some pieces that I sold commission-wise. If you've ever been on North Beach, this is in the hotel there, was actually. I don't know exactly what happened to it. They took it off the wall and painted a beautiful painting of birds. So one of the places, I didn't travel right away. I waited until I was probably in my 30s and 40s before I left the country. And I think that that had an advantage for me. I missed out on a lot of stuff, not going young, but I was a little more mature and responded a little bit more to what I was seeing. And particularly the floors in Italy was a great influence on me. And I've created a bunch of floors here in Texas, down in the valley there, the City Hall floor. And I collaborated with another artist to work on these, and I think collaborations is a whole other talk, but is really important. I mean, you don't do things by yourself. You know, the idea of an artist sitting in the studio and a light bulb going up over his head, that doesn't work. I tried that. But anyways, and this is in the new student center. Eventually we'll get to see it again. And of course, you can't go to the Sistine Chapel and not be impressed with with Michelangelo's paintings. And the Tree of Knowledge was something that really interested me. And so I came home and thought, well, that Tree of Knowledge had to be pretty sexy for Adam to give it all up. And so there's my idea of the Tree of Knowledge, which led into another work of, you know, trees, and did a whole, you know, basic exploration about trees. And what would happen if I turned my tree inside out, and what would it look like? So this is an oak branch that I cut off from a tree in front of my yard. Certainly scale always changes when you go to Europe or anywhere, Thailand, just a sense of scale. And so when you're making things that go outside, you know, you realize that scale has to change. This piece was made, it was in Abilene for a year, where I floated this heart out on the water. It was called Seek the Heart. Of course, you got to make large heads when you get back. And you see things like this on the facades of churches, and you wonder, how can I get that much information into a piece at home? And this is how I did that. And this led to a whole series of works. And Mexico, as I just was driving up, they were talking about, they still have a ban. They suggest that you don't go there. And it's a real, I mean, it's a real tragedy, because I took classes there, and this was from a trip to Espinazo, and one of our professors here used to study the Niño Fidencio, and he's writing a book on that. And it was an extraordinary time, changed the way I saw things, the way I looked, just the way I felt about South Texas. And hopefully we'll get to go back to Mexico one of these days, where it's safer. I don't know, Carrie will let me know when it's safe.
I'll let you know.
Anyways, but this was in Espinazo, and they were celebrating the life and death of the Niño Fidencio. the university used to have, is it a program, a sister program, what was that called?
Exchange.
Exchange program where we could go down and teach classes, they could bring their classes up and teach here. And they treated me like a superstar. I mean, I got to stay in a nice hotel downtown in Querétaro, and I never had, I mean, I just signed the room thing and it was all paid for. So I would invite the teacher that taught there to come eat at the at the hotel. We'd eat steak every night, you know. Anyways, this was Nora Medina, and she's come up and shown here at the Oso Bay, and so there was a really wonderful exchange between the two universities. And this is a piece that my students and her students made together, and we left behind. So, you know, it was a life-changing experience for a lot of my students, and anyways, I think that it changed me the way I kind of look at spirituality, you know, those first Nino Fidencio experiences. I made a series of works that kind of dealt with spiritual issues and how they're presented in different ways in Japan and in Mexico. This was a little patio I made, and I love the dogs. And so that leads me to the next adventure. Is in 15 days I'm headed to Tokyo, and you know, what I was doing this morning was making gifts with an old bill sticker thing that sticks on metal. And then I looked at my emails, and I wanted to thank Rich for reminding me that I had to do this talk today. I got the gift in here somewhere. Anyways, so I'm headed to Japan, and that is what I learned the first couple times I went there was that they just see things differently than we do. They love the way they can incorporate nature into their lives, where we kind of like keep nature away, you know, they embrace it. And if you walk up the steps into this room and you ask yourself, am I inside or am I outside? You know, that's the way they live. They really bring it home. And the way they cross a waterway is that, you know, we just build a straight line and get there as fast as we can, but in Japan, they wait a minute, they take their time. And look at the joint in this wood where the two pieces meet. Just so subtle, so beautiful. And so those kinds of things, you can't leave that country without being influenced or changed. And so I made work about nature and stuff like that. This is a little out of sequence because I didn't have too much time to prepare. Anyways, so the rock gardens were really something that was calming and beautiful. I love the transition between the how you walked into there. There's some slate, a big piece of granite, some gravel, another piece of granite, and then you're into the garden. I mean, they don't just like make a curve and a sidewalk and a street. They lead you in. And so coming back to the States, you know, I'm not Japanese and I don't want to pretend to make rock gardens, so what could I do? So I buried 25 of my students out at North Beach and created a garden that way. That led to doing something a little more permanent, and I did this piece, and it was in the movie DOA. So if you ever want to have a good ride, go see DOA with Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan. And if you can spot me, I'm in the movie 6 times. Then I raised those heads up off of the ground and began to work with this kind of hanging head idea, where these heads are really non-judgmental. They have no eyes or ears. They're just there, like the stones in the rock garden. They're just there. And so you can walk in amongst these heads and really invade those spaces if you want. That led to another piece that where it was this idea of like tons of fire coming down, although these are the So travel, not only does it inspire you, it changes you, and it also makes you a better person, I think, because you see things differently. We get really tied into this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is how we live. It's cold in here, it's cold outside. So travel changes that, become more accepting. I'll end with this piece. It's a piece I made up in Midland, Texas.